Okay, I think this is attempt 73, maybe 74. And action.
I'm just waiting for it to
Go
pause
yellow,
again.
go, yeah, this is. So for those of you who are sticking with us, thank you. And if you're watching this later, you probably were the smart ones, because it took us, it's literally 25 after 8, and we finally maybe have a stream that is going. There was a piece of software that needed to be updated, and we're still green. Could that have been
That
it?
could have been. Could have been.
Crazy.
Oh, my
Oh well.
goodness.
So
But it is just John and I tonight.
it
No,
is.
no Cubbie.
Cubby's
Cubbie gave
working.
up. Cubbie gave up before we even knew there was an issue.
He's like, yeah, this is going to be one of those throwaway shows, because you guys are, the internet's going to be dead, and there's going to be, gnashing of teeth and crying in the alleys. It's going to be great. But no, Cubby's working tonight, so he's off doing great things. He'll be back with us next Monday night. Yes, we're going to be back again next Monday night, and we've got 2 more shows in 2024 before it becomes the new year.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, it's gonna be awesome. So Dan, I wanted to chat a little bit, and we'll just make this obviously a short show, because first off, tonight in the DJNTV chill room after this show is over, we have the return of Howie. Howie's going to be back with us. Howie's been gone, taking a little bit of a leave here for the last bit of time, but tonight he will be back, and I talked to him today. He sounded great. He's fired up. He is excited. For those of you who haven't been in the chill room, it's djntv.com/chill. It's a Zoom room, and they'll do a topic, and they'll record for about 20 minutes, half hour, and then they'll open it up so people can come in and talk. It's kind of like a hallway chat, but the topics that they'll pick something that's kind of applicable to the industry, or talking music or something. And it's just some of the stories and some of the insight you're getting from the diverse group of DJs that are there. Listening to sometimes is just a lot of fun. Definitely something to check out. It's like we have them set up so on the podcast for out in the Apple world and many other places. You can go out and find DJNTV out on the iHeartRadio and the whole 10 yards. But yeah, listening to the crew chat sometimes can be really insightful, and sometimes it's just entertaining. And that's okay. That's good. So, Dan, our wedding season's over. Pretty much our shows for the year are over. And I wanted to kind of share a couple of lessons or things that we observed or picked up from this year's events, that were kind of little moments of and such, that could have been something that stood out, could have been something that we've done before, that whatever. Kind of those observations at the end of the year, that's like, okay, I need to remember this, and maybe make some tweaks to adjust and become better in that area for next year. So, did you get a chance to put a list together?
I did.
Excellent.
I have about 6 things.
Okay.
In total, if we end up getting to them all.
Yeah. Excellent.
Yeah. So should I get my first one?
Oh yeah, if you want to start. Okay.
Okay. I didn't want to assume they were jumping right in.
Yeah. No. Let's get to it. We've only got about 20 minutes, so.
Fair enough. So one of the first ones I'm going to say is there's always going to be new venues, right? It seems like that's one of the things I really kind of picked up on this year. There were some new venues that came into our area. And I think it's important that when you are hearing about these venues, you find a way to be able to get there and check some things out. Even if it's just, hey, I might have some clients that are coming to you that might be then coming to me, like that want to book. I want to get kind of my know-how of what your venue is like. And when you're there, you get an opportunity to talk with them. You get an opportunity to make a connection that could then turn around and actually promote you in business. Because one of the things that is often asked of a venue, hey, do you have any vendors you recommend? Well, if they're a new venue, they probably don't have a lot. So, you can be on, especially that short list. And then when you get there, it can turn around and end up being some events for you. So I definitely look for those new venues that are coming to your area. Find a way to get to them so that you can ask them and talk with them and again, make that connection.
So as long as you're talking venues, that was actually multiple were kind of around that whole new venue or new venue to me. Because so many of these, the new venues we were doing this year, one of the things that I just came back to, because each one of them, there's going to be a dance floor. There's this, there's an area for the DJ to set up. I mean, there's a lot of similarities, but there's a lot of flexibility that was needed. And there's probably been more flexibility in 2024 than I've ever had before in all of the years. And in order to build that relationship with that new venue for me, flexibility and the ability to adapt to unusual situations, whether it was because it's hot and people are outside and I need you to adapt to that, to be able to have sound, or it's raining and I need to be able to do things here, or it's raining and it's now noisy in this steel roofed building and I have to be able to have sound and such. That's good. That flexibility and adaptability to build these relationships, these positive relationships with these venues, was a huge learning lesson this year. Is that you just can't have the cookie cutter system that you're bringing out there and saying, okay, this works everywhere else. At every venue that I play, and I thought a number of times this summer is that with Dan with his big road case that the big DJ console he made. It's a fabulous thing and a fabulous idea, and it's like we'd be able to use it like twice this whole year would have been hit. And nothing against what you did or those ideas. It's just the timing. 10 years ago or 20 years ago, those were easily done because everywhere had ramps and everywhere has indoors and everything was air conditioned and beautiful. And I had wheeled it in, and now I'm carrying gear over rock paths to get to the building or the tent. So. Anyway,
I
flexibility.
will say my new one is more transportable,
And
but
you
I
went
get
that way,
exactly
yeah.
what you're saying with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to be flexible. You have to be ready. And I think that's where those site visits, become key. If you're not doing site visits, you're just setting yourself up for a lot of potential headaches, going in. And look for all the possible things, like John was saying, like the steel roof, all the things that could go wrong, or I shouldn't say maybe wrong, but could be obstacles that you'd have to overcome that might not be in place the day you're there for the site tour.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If it's sunshiny, you probably don't think about that. Look around, think about, what could create a problem here.
Oh, that's a great. You mentioning sunshine. If you're there on a cloudy day, or you're there at a different time of the day, that sun, as an example, with the ceremony site that we were in, the sun when we were there and we looked at it was in a different position because it was 2 months earlier. Well, now because of it being later in the fall and the timing of the day, the sun was in a horrible spot for the singers, and they could not be where we initially wanted them to be. So we had to change things up. So there's a lot of variables, and a person just has to be trying to cover as many, and then realizing that I'm still going to have to be very flexible and such, because you just don't know. And you never want to be the one to say, yeah, I don't think I want to do it that way, because that doesn't lead to future referrals or future good feelings from that venue.
Yeah, that's the key. And you also never know who might change your plan.
And that leads into my second one. Thank you, Dan. I'll just go into my second one as long as you did that. And specifically with those venues, sticking with those, but that communication with them, and the number of times and in a communication where we've talked, a ways out, 2 or 3 weeks out, and are like, let's talk the week before, or let's talk a couple of days before, just because we don't know weather, we don't know what's going to happen. And so it became with 2 of the barns this summer, it was emails. We just were emailing a little bit back and forth and kind of getting a plan, an overhead view. I did some pictures where I put the speakers of where I wanted to go, and I had this idea in our and they like, yeah, that looks great. And then 3 days beforehand, now we knew what the weather should typically or should be for the weekend. And it's like, yeah, we're going to scrap that idea, and we're going to be doing it again. But the idea is that we had that communication in advance, so there was a level of comfort, and they were realizing that it wasn't just a fly-by-night, I'm going to be coming in and doing a McWedding show type of a situation. And if I would have been having that communication in advance and calling them 3 days out and say, okay, so now what are we going to do? And trying to put everything together, even though everything we put together was basically thrown away because it was, weather in this particular case. But, if I wouldn't have had that communication, I would have been like, hey, that venue owner is just trashing my good ideas. Who's going to change my plans? Well, in that case, I would have blamed it on them more than the weather. But Yeah.
Yeah, I had a couple who changed it on me,
Mm.
and they changed it at the rehearsal dinner. Talked to the planner, who, like, I talked to everybody ahead of time. Everybody was in the know. Everybody had this set up. Everybody had the plan of what was going to happen. She gets to the rehearsal, and and the bride was like, I don't want to do that after all. Like, she hadn't been to the venue. This was a destination wedding of sorts, right? So I think maybe they saw the venue, but that was it. So night before, she's like, no, I want to change all this. They decided to tell everybody else except for me, and I show up, and I had to be extremely flexible with what was going on. Fortunately, I ended up getting my way because I was flexible and nice about it. And then when they realized that there was a reason why I told them we needed to do things the way it was, they're like, "Hey, can you move back in?" I was like, "I was just waiting for you to tell me I could. Let's go." Yes, like that. I will make that work. Don't worry. That is what I wanted to do in the first place,
Hmm.
right? Like that's what I'm thinking in my head. And it's just a matter of things get there. And if you're flexible and you're nice about it, then when you get to be right, you don't have to worry about "I told you so" or worrying that they're afraid to eat some crow there. Like, if you just play nice, usually things will benefit in the long run for you one way or another.
Hmm.
So, all right. So my next one is that updates and upgrades usually cost less than not doing them. So, and that's kind of a weird way of thinking about it. But right, if you're not doing an upgrade, you're not doing anything. Some people are like, well, how is that costing me anything if I'm not doing that? You're potentially, depending on, so I'm going to say more with the update than the upgrade. But if you're not making those changes, if you're not making those improvements, whatever it might be, your marketing, your um, gear that's on its last legs, your computer system, whatever might be the case, if you're not making those updates when they go down, or it's going to cost you, or in the case of marketing, you're looking outdated, and so you're not getting business, so it's costing you, right? So there's those pieces that kind of come together, and that idea really kind of came from an Alan Berg. He puts it more elegantly, and he's more talking about marketing, but I think we can broaden that out. A lot of my friends, and some of you guys that talk with me regularly, I'm making a big change this year. I've been rebranding. My plan was actually to have it ready to go by about like March of last year, and I kept putting it off. And I feel like in some aspects, it's cost me some being ahead of the game now for 2025. Didn't really affect me in 2024, so it was a way to put it on the back burner.
Hmm.
But 2025, I feel I'm behind the eight ball because that rebrand, that remarketing piece that I was going to do still isn't put in place. And a lot of that is my own doing. So, crossing my fingers that the last couple of pieces are going to come together quicker for me.
When you're checking in with the gear side of it. Last Wednesday, Chris Hintz was on with KC, and Chris is from South Dakota, Sioux Falls. Great guy, by the way. But he said something that was kind of interesting. Is he was describing how he got into, excuse me, not with KC, with Big Daddy. Um, he was talking about how he got into production when they were doing the larger events, and he made a comment about basically he needed to have to do those events. He needed to have the proper type of gear, and he needed to have the quality, specifically quality enough the microphones. You could get away with the $100 microphone, wireless microphone system, because it will work, but in order to do the things at the level he needed to do and to do it right, he needed to be over here and to be able to, upgrade to a truly professional, because this one over here would have in long term cost him a lot of money because he would have not gotten the business and such. And I think even in the wedding world, I think that those types of things that we need to, yeah, this might have worked a couple of years ago really well, but now if you're trying to push the limit and push yourself and push your company to a higher level, upgrading into the professional level, into a higher level of a quality gear, is going to pay dividends, and you're not going to be in essence losing money in that. And it was neat to hear how Chris explained that. But yeah, it was with Big Daddy last week. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Um, so so one of the personalization is something that I've done a lot over the years, and really done a lot of customization. And it felt like this year that personalization wasn't the over the top personalization that I have done in the past. It was the little things that, referring to the couple as, that by first name, pretty much exclusively throughout the, that it wasn't, I didn't refer to them as bride and groom. I didn't refer to them as Mr. and Mrs. Johnson or Mr. and Mrs. Fred Johnson. It was always, Fred and Sarah, or what, that type of a situation, and making it so I was talking more intimately in those moments seemed to be a more effective uh, methodology of personalizing. That, we didn't do any of the love story type of a situations or anything, any build up like that. We didn't do any of the video productions with the slideshows, and I don't even know if I saw a slideshow this year where they had the photos rolling. It just, that wasn't the case. And I did have couples even saying, to the point that, we're not really super comfortable, we're going to do our first dance, but we don't want the spotlight on us. We just want to have this. And that was a thing, a reoccurring theme for my 2024 events. So they enjoyed those moments where, again, you're talking to their friends and family, and we're all going to, hey, everyone, there's Fred and Sarah right there. Just, don't they look fabulous? Little things like that really seemed to tug at the hearts and really work. To go and make these grandiose gestures, or to try to do, and try to, more importantly, try to sell the ideas for these grandiose things just didn't work for me for this year. So personalization in a semi-intimate type, that, I don't want to sound weird or erotic or anything to that. It wasn't that type of an intimate. It was just basically that you were coming across as like a genuine friend, and you were there to be part of that group, celebrating and instigating slightly, but nothing over the top, because it was just that we're all here just to share this beautiful moment. It seemed to really connect well with the guests and with clients for this year.
That reminds me, I think, what was Jim Cerrone, just a couple days ago, I saw him post or made a comment to somebody else's post on Facebook. He basically alluded to the fact that couples, especially the current couples that we're dealing with, do not like to feel awkward. Right. And I don't think anybody does, but I think what is that definition of awkward has kind of changed for the couples now. Being in the center, being in the limelight, yes, it's their day, but they don't relish that. They don't feed off of that, and they almost anything beyond it don't want that. So some of them don't want to have microphones for the ceremony. Some of them don't want to do, a daddy daughter dance that is the full song. They don't even potentially want to do the first dance for the full song, right? They want these moments, for a lot of us, I think we thought, they're cutting out these pieces because they want to have a big party. I think there's some truth to that still, but I think it's more that they don't want to be that center spotlight. They're okay being a spotlight with all their friends together, like all of us. Let's all get together, but they don't like it's, when it's just the two of them. And so moments that used to be kind of that, like you said, tug at the heartstrings, they're okay with when it's more that friend piece that you were alluding to,
Mm-hmm.
and not that awkward piece. So
Yeah.
I would look for that probably to continue into 2025. Look for those couples, and think about that for when you're having those conversations, right? You may have used to use the conversation or the idea of making them, the center of everything, and that might be a turnoff to some of the couples.
Yeah, very, very true. And that could be a generational, or a trend with this age group coming through, is that that idea is just going to go away for a number of years. And granted, not for everyone. There's going to be some people who are going to be into that, but it used to be you could sell certain things and it would be the majority would buy type of a situation. And it might be that we were not into that, where the majority now would rather have it where it's hey, it's, 10 of my friends and we're all going to be on stage together and we're all going to be like, yay. But boy, if it's just, just me.
I wonder if that'll bring back not the bridal party dance, because that was always the weirdest awkward thing, right?
Yeah.
People are dancing with people they don't even know. But I wonder if there'll be a variation of that, kind of where it's the couple, it's the wedding party, and whoever their significant others are. I'm wondering if that version may find its way back, kind of to what you're saying. Like, I don't want to be up there by myself, but I'll have like It'll be a wedding party dance
Hmm.
as opposed to the couple's first dance.
One of the
I don't
most
know.
one of the most
That's a weird
popular, kind
speculation.
of building off that, is one of the most popular dances that we did, and it was nothing. It, basically, after the spotlight dances, I had to have Fred and Sarah out on the dance floor and invite all the guests to all the couples to join them on the dance floor for a slow song, because this will be the last slow song for a long time. And the gentlemen, you want to get out there and make it look like you are here to have a good time, type of whatever. Um, that that dance, when you then get all the couples, parents and uncles and aunts, and everyone comes out to be part of that one. I've had a couple of the couples were like, that was so awesome. Everybody came out there and we had everybody out on the floor and I got some great pictures and then we kicked things off. But there was that moment that it was everybody out there at so it wasn't just the two of them, and they were all out there, and photographers are busy running around taking pictures of the guests. And yeah, definitely could be something to that. Okay, let's see. What do you got for your next one there, Dan?
I'm being healthier makes the events easier,
Oh, good one.
quicker to recover from.
Oh, heavens, yeah.
And I kind of hit on a couple things, like a couple side notes to this. I mean, you and I, we've talked about the exercise piece. Like we both, you've been doing running for a few years. I've been now kind of picking it up and doing it with a little bit more. And last year I really had 2 races that I trained for. So throughout that time, I was really probably I've kind of slacked a little bit now that it's kind of gotten cooler, but it was helping me. It was
Mm-hmm.
helping me tremendously, and like to the point that I ran a 5K, did a wedding, and then turned around and did a half marathon. I don't think I ever could have done that. Well, I'm surprised I even did it that weekend. But like just that fact of doing those moments, the hydration, the exercising, the stretching, especially, I think that's how we prevent ourselves from having that next day gig hangover, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I've
Very much
talked
so.
about this before, and I'm sure some of you have felt it, where you know you're not drinking, right? You're not having any adult beverages throughout throughout that whole day, maybe, and yet the next day you've got a headache, you're stiff, like you're sore, and some of it might be shoes, and some of it might be mats that you're standing on, but it's more than that. It's something in your body just feels off, and I think taking those moments and continuing those healthy habits. I'm not saying you have to suddenly eat like your bodybuilder or something like that, but working towards having a healthier lifestyle for yourself will help those events go so much smoother just for your own personal pieces.
I can't believe I didn't have that on my list.
I can't believe
I,
you didn't either, but
that one should have been like at the top. You'd think I would have had it, but no, I didn't.
it's okay. Well, that's
But
because you
great,
learned it before.
great.
I just had to learn it this year. You learned it before.
Yeah, but it's one of those that you I don't want to say you learn it every year, but you appreciate it a little bit more, because in year two, for those of you if you've ever been into distance running, it takes many years before you can get. So, and I've been doing this for a couple of years now, and I'm not even close to being the level that many of the like a Jay Sims is. That not even probably never get there, but I can tell the difference in 2024 standing and being at an event and doing these things differently than I could in 2023. And I was in pretty good shape in 23 because that's the year I ran all the 5Ks. But as you continue and the body changes and you become stronger and more, yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. So okay. So reading the crowd, I think that's another a thing that has, because the idea of reading the crowd and having that dance floor and keeping everyone on the dance floor and keeping things going is just not as, I don't think it's quite as important as it once was, because I think there's a lot of situations, especially when we were doing these barns and there was people here and there's people there and there's, they're spread around doing different things. Reading that to know, okay, am I actually playing music people are enjoying? Is this a positive experience? Is this giving the client what they want? And some of it can be, asking, hey, is there anything I can do for you guys as far as everything going okay? Because we've been to seminars where they talk about checking in with the clients throughout the night. That can be part of it, but there's a part of it that having that ability to read what's going on and read the crowd, whether they're on the dance floor, whether they're around the dance floor, or whether they're in different spots as you're kind of going in investigating. Having that ability to read and decipher what's going on. Are we in a good spot? Is there something I could do to make this a better event? And part of it is also the communicating with the client and knowing in advance a little bit of what their goals are. But to be able to read that crowd is something that not everybody can do. Some people can look at that group of people and they have no clue of what's going on. If you've been in this long enough and you've got that reading a crowd gene, we'll call it, you can get a lot of information from body language, from how they're standing, how they're engaging with each other, what's going on. And it is always them going, beep, boop, bop, boop, to the music. There's many little subtle things that you can pick up on that's going to help you understand and give you kind of an immediate grade on how you're doing. So reading the crowd is an art form and something you have to work at. And I think part of it is kind of an innate skill, but boy, oh boy, it's a valuable skill. And it's something I think we really are going to be needing as we go forward with this new generation that is experiencing wedding receptions differently than what we did 10 and 15 years ago.
Definitely.
I think we got one more, Dan. You can wrap us up with.
Oh, I don't know if I want to. I'm going to go ahead and give Cubbie a little nod here. So mine is my one that it was one of my bonus ones. Some of the other ones, I guess, will become my Wednesday tips. But listen to Cubbie. Listen to Cubbie. I mean, I'm glad he's not here because then he'd be just like. But he shared a few things with me this year, and both on the show and kind of just in personal chats where. For example, one of the things that he often talks about is how he treats his clients at an event. More specifically, it's more specifically the ladies, right? It's kind of that gentlemanly aspect that he handles. But what he was talking about is, when he's helping with, inviting tables up to the buffet and everything else, and the bride is about ready to finish going through the buffet line, he'll take her plate and he'll escort her to the table. I decided to do that at a couple of my events. I got a thank you from a couple of the brides, but then like one actually physically mentioned this in her review. And it was because they were having red Italian, marinara
Oh
sauce with their
my.
meal and
Yep.
everything else. And I told her, it's like, listen, I don't want this to if you spill it when you're eating it, that's one thing, but I don't want you to accidentally spill anything while you're walking over. I said, plus, if you're on my arm, nobody's going to stop and talk to you.
Mm-hmm.
They're gonna let you go to the table. And she brought this up in a review to me. So listen to Cubbie and specifically how he talks about those relationships with the clients and the things that you're doing, the small little things as you go. It's going to make a big point. And so that was kind of a general thing without going into all the specific little things that he mentioned throughout the year.
Yeah, he is a wealth of knowledge, even though he at times doesn't think he is, and he will, and it's a combination of modesty and just I think he feels that many of the things that he does and says are just kind of semi-common, that it doesn't everybody do, that kind of a thing, that it's just in his mind, it's common sense, but he has got that empathy gene, and he has got that emotional, what is it, an emotional intelligence. It was actually one of them that's where I was headed to talk about some of the coming stuff.
We're on the same wavelength tonight.
So yeah, but he's got a high level of that, and kudos to Cubbie that he's built a wonderful DJ business, doing it his way. Many things he does differently than a lot of the DJs who are out there, selling programs and things. But what he does works really well and keeps him very busy. And that's why he's not with us tonight, because he's off making money, which is good. Good. All right, we need to wrap. DJNTV.com/chill is where the guys will be. And it looks like, hey, we figured out our streaming issues, which is good. So next week will be, when Cubbie's back, then we'll be good to go. Yeah, we'll have a couple more videos tomorrow night. We got Tuesday night with Ben Stowe and Big Daddy tomorrow night, and then Wednesday, I don't know. So it's my birthday Wednesday, and Lori was going to take me out for dinner, but then we had to stream. We've got a live show on Wednesday night, so I'm not sure how we're going to make this work. Because, yeah, I think I'd rather go out to dinner, especially when someone else is buying. Yeah.
But it's your wife, so technically.
Oh, please just leave me in my little delusional world, okay? So yeah, we'll figure that out, and we'll see what we can do for that, and you guys have yourself a good week then. And yeah, I've got links. I think the links should be on their way out there. Oh, I'll just put it up here in the chat, and Dan, you can kind of take us home here.
All right. Well, all of you that stuck with us through the many reattempts and everything, we are so appreciative. And those of you that just said, "I'll just catch you on the replay," thank you as well. We very much appreciate it. Hope you have a great rest of your week.